Hey, it's Lomentini lit up, and here is what I am lit up about. It's 2024. I love Stop it. You gotta cut that out. I love even numbers. Something about odd numbers, especially 2023. Just, ugh. It was bad. It was bad, but it was great because I am such in a better place than I could have ever dreamt to be at this moment. And that's what is so wonderful about this podcast, this day, this Thursday, January 4th of 2024. Here I am alive and well with an amazing opportunities that facing me this year. And it's just been amazing. And so what I wanted to do is take this moment and do a 2023 recap. A lot of you do know what's going on. A lot of you have been following me. And because of that's where a lot of these opportunities have developed because of the situation and in the recovery and the salvation from suicide. And so it's just amazing. And one of the things that amazes me the most is how fully alive I am after being so close to death, and so appreciative of the life that I've got and what is ahead of me. And it blows my mind, and I'm excited to kind of recap 2023, put it behind us, put it behind me, and look to the future. You know, it's tough to let go. It's tough to move on. It's sometimes tough to say goodbye. It's extremely excruciating, and there is no finite like closure to it. There's just this empty fog of nothing, because some people can't bring it to themselves to have that type of, I don't think it's a conversation, it's just some sort of closure to it. Some people are just cowards. And something that I've learned a lot about individuals in my life. And I've lost a lot of friends, I lost a lot of family, lost a lot of stuff. And, but I have regained it back more than I could possibly even imagine, getting it back, and some of the friendships and the development of new friendships and the roads that have opened up and the doors that have opened up have just been amazing. I've put enough podcasts out there for you guys to actually go back and see everything. And all started back in January and February. And then of course, March, as you all know, is the fateful day of me trying to end my life. And from that journey, I've learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about people in my life, and what you thought was in your life really wasn't in your life. And so some of the things, I'm just kind of bouncing around here a little bit just because I'm so excited. I did an interview with a girl named Jamie that'll be posted up here soon. You guys are going to love that kind of stuff. You know, she's got a great outlook on life. I've got some great interviews coming up. Won't go into full names, but Brandy and Dino and Doug and Jerry, all of them have some sort of an experience with what I went through, whether it was a family member of theirs, a loved one, a child, where darkness had set in on them, depression, anxiety, unfortunate suicide. And what I mentioned just a few seconds ago is how unbelievably blessed I am to be so alive after something so dark, to be so intact, to be in such good health, to have a clear mind, have an articulate mouth. And something was said to me last night in that interview that I thought fascinating, is that our throat is kind of like the heartbeat of our being. We breathe with it. We speak with it. We turn with it. We just, all of those things. And March 19th was brought to my attention as if on March 19th, the devil was trying to silence me from making the changes in my life that were needed. He was trying to silence me from speaking my mind and speaking the truth about various things that were happening. He was trying to silence me from sharing my experience so that others can grow and not go that direction. He was trying to silence me. And so then the knife in my neck. Amazing to be alive and to be able to share this experience and fight that devil, Satan, away, because God had other plans, and God has an amazing plan. And I also had mentioned something about being interrupted. We talked about interruption. God will interrupt your life so he could put you on the course that he needs you on. What I found interesting, I was sharing that with a friend named Rebecca, a very faithful, very spiritual girl. And she's like, you ever thought of it though, that God already has the plan? God's plan is beyond us to comprehend. It's already set in place. So that interruption that I see as a human, I see it something he just did, but it's already something he had part of his plan. So that's part of his plan. So the interruption on March 19th was already in play, was already there. Doesn't that blow your mind? That was already there on purpose because God knew that you were going to go down the wrong direction. God knew that you were going to be married to the wrong person. God knew that you were going to be just not be right. So it was all part of his plan, so that, you know what, that interruption, so it blew my mind. It wasn't an interruption that God's like, you know what, I'm going to interrupt him on March 19th. It was already in the play. Bam. Unbelievable. So how did this start? So married for almost 4+ years. And I adored it. I adored the family a lot. We did a lot of things together. We traveled an awful lot. Developed kind of like a couple of happy places, skiing, especially the beach. And so we really enjoyed those things, but it seemed some of the things that happen within a relationship, some of the things that just kind of develop over time, you don't realize that your self-confidence, your identity gets lost into something else because of your way that you've been treated, the way you were treated. And it's little subtle things here and there over a period of time can actually make you not the person you thought you were. So over time, I just developed this attitude that I just wasn't enough. I was never enough, and never enough money, wasn't never good looking enough, never didn't drive nice enough car. My businesses weren't taking off as well. I mean, just a lot of little things over time that were just kind of like fed to me that just made me lose myself. So a lot of times when you lose yourself, you look for something to numb the pain or adjust yourself so that you can kind of deal with what's going on. And so alcohol started becoming more of a habitual thing. And so what was interesting about that is when you are in a relationship and you lack in a specific area, the problem of drinking becomes highlighted. So all of a sudden, we're not talking about you not making enough. We're not talking about you not being good looking enough. We're not talking about you not having a nice enough car. We're not talking about any of those things anymore. Now we're talking about you're an alcoholic. So then just a whole bunch of other shit starts to happen in your mind, in your thoughts, in your attitudes, and how you feel about yourself. So you try and mask it. You drink on a regular basis, and it just becomes dumb, idiot stuff. So over time, during that period of time, I obviously in a relationship, if there's no communication, it just not going to work. So there wasn't a lot of communication about, hey, what's going on with you? How can we solve this together? It was never one of those, let's solve this together. It was, you have a problem, you need to fix it, or I'm not going to be around with you. I don't want anything to do with you, or whatever the case is. I need to fix it. You need to fix it. You're this, you're that, you're an alcoholic. You do this, you don't do this. And it just became like this, okay, I'm on this on my own, and sometimes you need that support of that person that you love in order to fix those things. I didn't have that. So we went on a ski trip, and let me back up a couple of times. We had gone to a couple of beach trips, and most recently we went to a trip to Florida, and I had a little too much to drink on that trip. And so it did make for the best trip ever. And I introduced her to my friend Paul. So anyway, we had that trip. And so it left a kind of a dirty taste in both of our mouths. And so then we go skiing in January. And we had the best ski trip ever. You guys can go back and watch the pod, but I'm just kind of recapping 2023. Had a great ski trip. Everything was great. Everything from the rental car to the flight to the skis to everything. And it was the week after Martin Luther King's birthday. There's hardly anybody there in Breckenridge. Had a great ski trip. But there were certain things that weren't right. Like there was no, well, I'm not going to get into that. It was just a 1 week thing of just straight skiing and not much else, and we get back and daughter has a baby. She leaves, she comes back home and I'm cleaning the house. Everything is great, but I've been drinking, and I've been drinking this stupid concoction of wine, champagne, and a shot of vodka. And I don't know how that concoction came together, but it did, and that's what I was drinking. She says the neighbors are coming over for watching football, and the Chiefs were going to be playing, and all that kind of stuff. So football happens. Everybody's drinking, and everybody's eating, and there was a comment made about a credit card, and then all hell breaks loose. And I hit my wife, and I've never done anything like that in my life, which is probably what led me to March 19th and also in February. So everything, that's the last time I've talked to her. There's been no hellos. There's been no anything. Not a single fucking thing. And here, what got to me the most was not just the closure, but the fact that there was no trying to fix it. It was immediate betrayal. It was immediate crucifixion. It was immediate and then the whole family comes crushing on me, and it was just horrible. And so here I am, immediately cut off, immediately not able to communicate, immediately just done, getting out of jail, which is a terrible experience, especially when you don't even remember kind of what even the frick happened that night. So I try to recover, try to find a place to live, try to get my life kind of in order in a real quick hurry, because you've got 30 minutes to go into the house and get all your shit out. And so that was a nightmare, because suddenly the home, the family, the life, all of it is gone just like that. All of it, the dogs, the house, the neighborhood, the friends, everything gone. You got 30 fucking minutes to get your shit out of your house and get out. So on top of the fact that you've lost everything in that short a period of time, what a traumatic event to go to. And I know I'm not the only guy out there running around that's gone through something like this. But the key is getting through it. So, but it wasn't that easy, and it wasn't that clear to me, because you're lost. You've lost everything. The person that you considered to be your best friend was nothing even close to being your best friend. So you move on, you grab some stuff out, you try to find a place to stay, you live in the van, you live in your car until you figure that out, bouncing around, trying to go back to work, and then everything is just not the same. I went right back to work maybe that next week, and it was like a fog. So immediately, in a traumatic fashion, I thought, you know what, I'll put it out there into some podcast. Back in January, February, I thought putting it out there, talking about the alcoholism, talking about the fight, talking about all that stuff would be some sort of therapeutic moment. But I wasn't ready for the therapy. I just needed to talk it through. And Greg Pease was there, and kind of it worked, getting it out there. But what it did was stir the pot with her family. And then had all these amazingly horrible comments about me. And so it goes right back into the betrayal, where you think you have a best friend. You think you can trust that person with all of the secrets. And I use that word lightly. I don't mean it as being a secret, but they're things that mean really personal stuff to you that you share with them, because, that's your friend, it's your best friend, it's your partner, it's your lover. But then to find out when you're done, when this happens, it's an accident, you're sorry, you're nothing you can do, because now it's completely over, because now it's all out there. And then the whole family says, oh, wow, you're right. But see, so I'll get to that. So we get through that, And so I tried to go back to work. I tried to make sense of it, but I just can't. The thoughts of suicide kept running into my head because I'm massively depressed. I'm anxious. I can't, get the stuff out of my head. I can't get January 29th out of my head. Not because I've never done anything like that before in my life, and to end up doing it to the person that is the person you're supposed to protect. So I couldn't get it out of my head. So I start looking and diving into suicide. I start diving and looking into ways to hurt myself the most painless way possible. And I want to tell you something about suicide, and that's why that's now my life's journey is suicide prevention, and we'll get to that. But the world out there is dark. The world out there is a shitbag sometimes, because you look up suicide, there are actual pro-suicide groups out there. It's ridiculous. Join the group, find a partner, do it together. What? Then there's guys out there that prey on people that are, suicidal, telling them we're going to do this together. They get on a Zoom call or they actually meet up, and the other guy doesn't even do it. The other guy does. And so it's like this predator thing about suicide. It's fucked up. So I read all kinds of articles about suicide and about how to do it quietly. So the articles that I kept running into are the people that do survive suicide, but they're mangled up. Either half their face is gone because they tried to shoot their fucking head off, or they can't walk anymore because they're crippled and they jumped off a bridge and broke their back, or just vegetable because they tried to drown themselves. Someone saved them, and now that they're brain dead. There's all of these articles and things out there that people have tried to do, but they survive, and now they're mangled for life. So I came across this idea. I was like, I'm not trying. Hey, listen, I'm just being extremely transparent. I'm being extremely accountable. I'm telling you exactly what the fuck happened to me. So I've come across this idea. It's it's Google. Benadryl. If you take over 45 Benadryl, you're supposed to go into a shock and seizure. You should go brain dead. You should go to sleep and never wake up. That was my plan. So I needed some closure in my own head. I needed to get close to God. I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to kind of get this in my head. So I wanted to go to one of our happy places. So I went to Destin, Florida, and I went there and oddly enough, I went there on fucking Valentine's Day, February 14th, Destin, Florida. And I'm there, and there's all these couples together, and I love the back porch restaurant, and they're all sitting there lovey-dovey, just having a great time. And I'm by my fucking self contemplating this end of my life and trying to make videos and talking and, reaching out and just like, I miss you, blah, blah, blah. My mind is gone. So I came up with this brilliant plan. Back up. I walked the beach for probably 4 hours. 4 hours, back and forth, wearing myself out, just back and forth, praying and trying to get myself right with God and thinking about all of that. And actually, I thought I was going to be okay because, I finally left after about 3 days. I finally drive back home to Franklin, drive back to my studio salon, and everything seemed fine. But as I got closer to the studio, closer to Franklin, what happened was as I was driving, the first 4 hours, I was like, good. And then I started thinking about everything, thinking about her, thinking about the loss of everything, thinking about no family, no dog, no home, no nothing. And I'm thinking, well, that was my identity. That was who I am. I have nothing else really to live for. So I go back and we're going to, what's amazing to me is I did the Benadryl. I can't even remember. I probably did 60 of it. I did the Benadryl and I put a zip tie around my neck. Zip ties are no joke. They do not forgive. So I did that, passed out, and pretty much I thought I was done. Should have been done. 10, 11 hours later, there's a knock on my door. And it's my client ready for his haircut. My face is purple. The zip tie cut my skin and my neck, and I had blood all over my shirt. And I'm delirious because of the Benadryl, so I really don't know what the hell's going on. And I had a choice right there and then. It was, do I open this door or not have opened the door and hopefully the inevitable would happen? Well, I decided to open the door. And he's shocked. He's dismayed. He's like, what are you trying to do? You're trying to kill yourself. And that was hard to deny. And you go right into denial mode. And I said, no, I'm not trying to kill myself. I just was fucking around with this necktie and messed up, which is just bullshit. So he helped me cut it off. He goes, we need to call the police. I'm like, no, let's just cut it off and I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Well, we get it cut off and I'm just a mess. He leaves and then unbeknownst to me, he texts me and says, hey, let's go grab breakfast. And I think what he was trying to do is get me out of my frame of mind, which is what someone in support should do for you, right? We'll get to that too with the whole biometrics and the support group and people being alerted to your crisis. Because, let's take a little break here. Had I had that technology on my finger, someone would have been alerted before I even got to that point because my heart rate would have been changed. My body temperature would have been changed. My breathing habits would have been changed. My sleeping score would have been horrible. All of these things that could be signals that you're having problems. So getting back to where I was at. I didn't answer his text, so he called the police, and then it turned into an absolute fucking fiasco at the salon. So you guys know the kind of salon I had. It was a solo salon. I was all in a bunch of big area here, and it said it was a fucking circus. The police, the EMS, the fire department, sheriff, just a mess. And so they're trying to talk to me and I'm thinking I'm being arrested. And they're like, dude, settle down. You're not being arrested. We're just making sure you're safe, that type of thing. And at that point, I'm trying to say, okay, I'm fine. I just want to go home. What home? But that wasn't the case with these guys. They were going to take me to jail. This is when I knew there was nothing coming back to me from her. I get put in the hospital. I get put in the ambulance, and I text her saying, I'm going to the hospital, suicide attempt, or whatever the text was, and I'll get to that later too. Absolutely no response, no phone call, not a fucking thing. How you doing? Praying for you. Sorry we can't work this out, but we just got to move on. Nothing. So I go through that, and I get put in TriStar psych unit. Okay. So I'm there, and what was amazing about that place was what the fuck. You look around and you're like, what am I doing here? There's a lot of different things that were like, what the F? Like, there's so many young people there, young, teenager, young 20s, guys with problems, just wow. Then there was an executive with a big company here in town that was there as well. Now, predominantly, all of those people that were in there were people that thought about suicide or had some sort of other addiction, which made them extremely depressed and that kind of stuff. And I met with the doctor, and he's like, Patrick, most of these people here are people that think about it, but you actually did it, which is something much else, different to think about. So that I let that resonate, and I tried to get back to life. A week passes by, and I'm extremely paranoid. I'm paranoid that the cops are there to take me away. I'm paranoid that, just the whole scenario of what happened on January 29th and the loss of her and all that stuff. I just was so massively anxious and paranoid. So I finally get out of there. I end up with this roommate guy, and which actually turned out to be an absolute disaster. He's one of a couple of guys that were in my life that were these holy roller Christian people, men of faith that could rattle off a freaking Bible verse, as soon as you ask them to. And, but they didn't live it that way. It was just, I was like, man, wow. So, that happened. I go back to work. He picks me up. I try to have some sort of semblance of my life. I met this guy when I was at TriStar. So we started up this new podcast about surviving suicide and all the crap in between. And it was about life, and it was about, surviving the issues of life so that you don't have to commit suicide or ever think about going that direction. The problem was that I didn't have enough context. I didn't have enough content yet. And yet my mind wasn't clear enough for me to really push that title or push that podcast at the moment. But I was doing everything I could. I started writing this book, started writing a book about my life. I wanted to talk about some things that were in my life in the past that needed to be opened up about, or at least clarified, or at least, clarified. We'll just leave it at that. So I thought that was going to be something I could do, and I really wanted to put it out there, some things that would do it with my children. And I was like, at this point, I'm like, is it even worth it now? But going back to that, I didn't have enough content. I didn't have enough context with it. So I tried to go back to life and do the podcast. And I was doing various subjects about, suicide and all those things. And it was a fateful day on March 19th, and I'll explain it to you right now. It was a gorgeous spring day. March 19th, like 50s, and it was beautifully bright and sunny outside. And I had already known what I was going to do for our podcast, and I had reached out, which is some ironic stuff. I had reached out to some friends like Ray and Tad and said, hey, man, let's talk tomorrow. I'm going to do this podcast, and I'd love to talk to you. And it was about Robin Williams, and I wanted to talk about that because it was about all the hidden things that people don't know. People don't know. You have a smile on your face, and you're energetic, and you're full of life, which also, we'll talk about Kylie and the development of that company. But then he was so sad and so dark, and a lot of things that people did not know about. And so he was struggling with dealing with that. So the last interview he had was with Diane Sawyer. And one of the main themes of his conversation was it's all about people. It's about helping each other. Kick your ego to the curb. And it's all about people. That's all it's about. And that's what it's about. We're here on this earth to help each other. We can't do this alone. So that was going to be it. So I got up early. I felt good. I had a couple of mimosas, and that was kind of my little Sunday routine for years, for a while. And I had put on church online. I was excited. I wanted to watch church and then go do my podcast and do all that stuff. And then I was highly disappointed in the podcast, or not the podcast, but the church, because it was a woman, and she had the same exact message that I heard 6 months prior. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and listen to all this. So I get ready and I head south to Spring Hill, where I am right now in this beautiful podcast room. I come here and the rest is a blur. So I even posted the actual podcast of March 19th of, I don't know when, several weeks back. You guys can find it and see just what kind of frame of mind I was in. And one person actually said to me after they watched it, they said that wasn't even you. You looked possessed. You looked unhealthy. You were pale. You were skinny. And yeah, I had lost a lot of weight. I wasn't tanning anymore. And I wasn't Patrick at all. So I did the podcast, which is kind of a blur. I watched it for the first time when I posted it for you guys. It was hard to get through. And so after the podcast, I closed up shop, which I don't remember, got in my van, which I don't remember, and started driving. And then that's when all hell broke loose, and I don't remember any of it. I pulled an O.J. Simpson. I decided, you know what, let's go on a high-speed chase. Let's, avoid the police. Let's shut down 840. And they finally got me. They threw the spikes out. They finally got me to pull over. I finally pulled over, guns drawn, ready to shoot me. And it's amazing they did not shoot me. And I decided at that moment that my life was done and the devil wanted me to shut up and slice my throat. So I took the knife, I slit my throat, stuck it in, cut both arteries on the right side, and it should have been over. But the cops there and the EMS and the people that were there were all trauma-trained, military trauma trained. And so everything, helicopter, the whole deal, surgery, 250 staples in my neck, the whole deal. I'm alive and I'm recovering. in ICU. And insult to injury, this is what really has gotten me and really has fired me up for my recovery, for my redemption, for my revenge. I use the word revenge lightly because I don't mean it in a harmful way, just a successful way. Because everybody's going to get paid out of this. I'm going to have my closure because you cannot rely on another person to give you closure. Your closure comes from you, and you have to determine what that closure is. I have determined what that is, and it will happen. It will happen by July of this year. That's the goal. It will happen. Everybody's going to get taken care of. But insult to injury, this roommate guy I was talking about, while I'm in recovery, while I'm down, while I'm still groggy from everything, I think I shit myself because of the medication they had me on. He comes up there in his most arrogant, hypocritical, self-righteous motherfucking way to tell me he's kicking me out, that I'm on my own and now I have a story to tell. And while he's effing there, my ex-wife calls, or she's not even my ex-wife at this time. The one that I'm so distraught about, the one that I'm so upset about, the one that has got me so messed up, I'm recovering from killing myself. And he's got the nerve to fucking take a phone call and talk to my ex-wife and say, in the most pleasant way, "It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm so sorry it's under these circumstances." Are you effing fucking kidding me? Unbelievable. Fuck you. Wow. So that's the beginning of the end in the relationship. So during that chase, I created quite a fiasco and some charges. So after my week or 10 days there at Vanderbilt Psych, I go to jail, and the nightmare continues. In jail, I'm trying to recover. Immediately, I'm trying to see how I can actually end this thing by banging my head against the wall on the concrete wall, because I just didn't want to do this anymore. I just was done. I thought this should have done it. I met my court-appointed attorney. And at first, it was not a very good meeting. He was quite the ass. He told me, there's no way, you be prepared. You're looking at 2 years, that kind of thing. I'll do my best to try and get it down. You just need to realize that this is, la, 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 whatever. That was the first meeting. And it wasn't pleasant, and it wasn't friendly. And so it continued to add to my pain in my recovery. And I'm like, I'm not getting out of here. There's no way I can do 2 years in jail. There's no way I'm going to be able to survive that on top of what I've just lost. There's just no way. So the suicidal thoughts continued. And as time rolled, my lawyer had a different look at it. He started saying, you know what, I'm going to fast forward. And he says, I need you to trust me. I said, I don't even know. I haven't even read. I didn't. Like I said, I didn't remember what happened, and I haven't even read the police report. I still haven't even read the police report. What good is it going to do me? That's what my therapist said. What good do you want to relive such a traumatic event? Why do you want to put that in your head? So I didn't do anything like that, and so my lawyer said, "Trust me, Patrick. I need you to trust me." So he goes, what I've read looks like a very bad day. He goes, I'm going to get you off on temporary insanity. Now, I'm immediately thinking there is just no way you're going to get me off on temporary insanity. I've seen this stuff in movies, and it's just like one of those things that's just almost impossible to do. But he said, trust me, I'm going to get you with a therapist, and we're going to have you interviewed. He goes, I don't want you to prepare. I don't want you to read your report. I want you to just tell him exactly what you told me. So it took another month before I saw this gentleman. And this is going close to 3-4 months now of me being in jail and just trying to make the most out of the world. And so I have the interview. It's about 30 minutes long. They asked me about it, what I remember, what I don't remember. And lo and behold, it came back that on that day I lacked any kind of capacity of knowing right from wrong, and that I was on that day temporarily insane. Wow. So because of that, I was let out. I was let go, with the condition of a year's worth of therapy, which I'm halfway through, and it's been probably the best thing in my life. I think a lot of people out there need it. But I was very fortunate that judge understands mental illness and the possibility of mental illness, and she agreed with the prosecutor, agreed with my lawyer, that I would go through some intensive outpatient therapy and do a year's worth of therapy. And all those charges that I created would be dropped, and they will be dropped. So I was dealing with that. And then I was still dealing with what happened to my wife in January. Charges were developed there. Domestic issue, violence, let's just call it what it is. And they wanted it to be a felony because her eye swelled up, and it was not pretty. It's a shame. But, so I had that to deal with, and that kept that court system down in Murray County is very slow. And so it just finally got to a point. What was interesting is that, through therapy, this podcast is a little longer than I'd like it, but I wanted to recap this stuff for you. Through therapy, I realized it wasn't the fucking alcohol. It was the life that I was leading. It was the gaslighting. The constant, it was interesting because Jamie asked me a question yesterday in our interview about allowing yourself to feel that way, allowing yourself to let someone make you feel like you're not enough. And the question was, yeah, that might be happening, but you're the one that's allowing it to happen. So aren't you part of that aren't you participating in that problem? And the answer is, quite frankly, yes. But over a period of time, little this, little bit of that, your strength diminishes, I guess, if you want to call it that. Your strength diminishes, and you start to allow it to happen. You think it's nothing, but then you replace it with alcohol to numb it so it doesn't matter. And, it just becomes this like big thing. But to come to find out, it wasn't alcohol, but I was being labeled an alcoholic because nobody fucking cared to understand why I was drinking or why that was going on. They just said, you're an alcoholic. You got to go fix it. You're a fucking problem. So it's more deeper than that. It's more layers than that. So it wasn't the alcohol, which is fantastic, man. I could give a rat's ass about alcohol. It's been the best thing in my life to move on from it. But every once in a while, I enjoy a nice glass of bourbon, all right? But you realize I'm not doing it to mask anything. I'm doing it because I enjoy the drink, and I can move on from one. I don't need 2 or 3 or 4. So anyway, it wasn't the alcohol. It was the issues that I was dealing with. And finally, Murray County came to a head. We negotiated that out. So it all happened God has had a hand on this the whole time, because what had happened in Williams County, even though it was post Murray County, January, it was March. Even so, while I'm waiting to handle Murray, I'm going through therapy. I'm already going through various classes and things like that I enjoy and wanted to go to. And because of that, the people in Murray were able to say, wow, he's being proactive about his changing. And even though some people wanted me to go to AA or alcohol rehab because that wasn't the fucking problem, I'm not even doing anything like that. It wasn't even an issue that I had to go through. What's even more odd is they want me to take a anger management assessment because of what happened January 29th. And what's interesting about that is I've never been in a fight with her of any kind of large magnitude of anger. And I hate conflict, which you'll see in one of these interviews. I hate conflict. I avoided conflict, which is another problem because it's a form of trauma that you're dealing with something because you want to avoid it. But anger was not even the issue. So, so I find it kind of comical, but at the same time, we're fixing it. We're getting through it. That ended up being probation and dealing with a couple of things I got to take care of. So we're good. It's over. Handled. 2023 is over, and that was the recap. So what has happened from then, and what have I learned? I've learned that people are limited. I learned that also people are very resilient. I also know that there is no limit in life of something that you can accomplish if you really want to. So while I was on vacation and away, I came up with this idea of how could what I have been through been avoided, which I mentioned earlier back in February and especially in March. How could that have been avoided? And my friend Ray, who's good friends with Brian, they're in the biometric world, and they use the data to determine, they do life coaching, and they do to determine burnout with doctors and nurses. And I'm like, how could I have used that ring or that wearable to may have stopped what happened with Patrick? Because we talked about this, and it's all about your support group, right? So when the situation happened in February, there was a support group. I had my roommate, and I had the pastor friend, and I had the other ones that I thought were my support group, and it was so ridiculous. Anyway, but I could have reached out to them for help, but I think I was too far gone in the head at the time. But what I'm trying to say is, what if they knew what was happening with you? What if they knew that you were in crisis? So there is the idea of the biometrics and the ring. So the idea just went boom. And so there are people that are in that space, but they're in it in a different way. So I'm going to continue to go into that space and partner up with someone like possibly Aura, or someone like Google, or someone like Apple, so that we can use that device to determine crisis and intervene through various things like your support group. You have the option. Let's say I wear the ring, and I have the option, because I have the app, and I have the option to put this person on my support group as an alert. They don't have to see what's wrong with me. They just know that something's not right. So they can call and reach out to me. Or I have the option not to. Sometimes it's just one of your own things. Maybe the alert goes off for yourself, and you realize, oh, okay, I'm something's not right with me. Because a lot of times when you're in crisis, you don't even know you're in crisis. Case in point, March 19th. I didn't know I was in crisis. I don't even remember the damn day. But someone could have called. Someone could have interrupted my path of thought by a phone call or a text. And if I don't get responded, if there is no response after X period of time, the police are called. It's got GPS, and they try to find you for a wellness check. That's the idea. That's what we're going with. So Paul and I, on my last trip to Florida for Christmas, I was looking for an idea at how we could name this company and how we could partner with it. And so all these different names had already been used. Did Google searches, and we did a lot of trademark searches, and realized, oh my God, that word's done, that word's done, that word's done. So on my way down, this is the wrap up of the day, a wrap up of the year, and going into 2024. I'm going to Florida to see Paul. It's Christmas. And we're doing some business, and we're putting this idea together of the wearables to prevent crisis, suicide. And what's the name of this company? How can I name this company? What could we name it that's unique and individual? No one else has it. So I'm writing, and all of a sudden this song comes on the radio, and it's a song called "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd. It's definitely a song about someone who's no longer there. Wish you were here. And the lyrics are so amazingly profound. But there is a specific lyric, and so this song was really kind of introduced to me, or wasn't introduced. I had known about the song, but the song took on a different meaning back in 2016. My girlfriend, Kylie, who herself had been suffering from a lot of stuff and traumatic childhood and stuff, but wonderful person. Going back to exactly my point about Robin Williams and other point, out in the public, she was fantastic, dynamic, but at home she was dealing with things. She told me that song reminded her of us because of a lyric that was in the song called, quote unquote, it was like, "We are just two lost souls swimming in a fish bowl." And that is amazing because so many of us we're just going over the same old ground, finding the same old fears. And that's all we're doing day in, day out, week after week, month and year after year, just two lost souls swimming in a fish bowl, going over the same old ground with the same old fears. It dawned on me the name of that company is going to be Kylie, in remembrance of her, and an acronym that says keeping your life in focus. Keeping your life in focus. Kylie, Kyli. It's a play on words, but keeping your life, and that's the whole purpose, right? Because we are losing focus of our life. We're losing focus of our own identity. We're losing focus of our purpose. And so that's the name Kylie, keeping your life in focus. And that's the whole program. That's the whole idea, is to prevent crisis. Because if Kylie had that ring or Kylie had that watch, if she had it on at that time, someone possibly could have interfered. Possibly someone could have interfered with that fatal moment, because it's about interrupting the thought process. Keeping your life in focus. That's where I'm at today. I'm back at work. Real estate is doing well. Barbering is doing well. The Kylie project is doing well. We're moving forward with that, getting the LLC. And what else is happening? Barkade's still happening. Barkade's still around. In fact, what I have decided with Barkade is to find someone else to run it. Barkade is going to be run by someone else. I am the founder. I am the CEO, whatever you want to call me, the founder. Let's leave it at that. I'm the founder of Barkade, but I need someone else to run it. Barkade has a large following. Barkade still deserves to be out there. People deserve the power of Barkade as far as developing fundraising and money and awareness. That's what Barkade is about. I'm off with Kylie. Someone else can take care of Barkade. So that's my decision on Barkade. And my decision is to continue to live life at the fullest, to find peace and happiness and find my closure. And I will have that. And I'm excited that this 2024 has finally arrived. Goodbye, 2023. I don't regret it, but it wasn't something I would recommend. It's made me who I am today, stronger, better, smarter, clearer. And my relationship with Christ is just off the charts. Lomatini, let up. I love all of you.